This episode talks about end-of-life choices and self-harm. If this feels too heavy for you, please skip this episode, take a break, take care of yourself, and we'll see you in the next one. This case mostly uses sources in Spanish, so some details may not translate perfectly. If we missed anything, please let us know in the comments. So without further ado, let's begin. Noelia Castillo Ramos didn't choose death. She chose to stop waking up to the same pain every single day. The kind of misery that doesn't leave. The torment that little by little changes what living even means. And that's where it stops being her story. Because if you woke up tomorrow and nothing ever got better, how long does holding on stop feeling like strength? Or would there be a point where enduring no longer feels like living at all? This is the case of Noelia Castillo Ramos, whose voluntary end of life occurred on the last days of March 2026.
Buenas tardes. A 24 horas de morir, Noelia se despide. Se despide de este mundo, pero se despide también de los suyos, así de su abuela Carmen. Escuchen.
Some choices do not just ask what you would do. They ask who you are when the pain does not stop. There is a difference between truly living and just getting through each day. In that space, people begin to ask hard questions. In a life full of pain and trauma, what does dignity really mean? And who gets to decide? As young as 13 years old, Noelia Castillo Ramos already went through many difficult experiences in her life. Her parents had separated and she experienced parental neglect, leading her to be placed in a state-supervised care facility for vulnerable youth. It was here that she had been diagnosed with depression, obsessive-compulsive disorder, and borderline personality disorder. Specific dates weren't mentioned, but it was reported that Noelia suffered multiple incidents of sexual abuse and assault. The last time Noelia recounted, she was assaulted by 3 boys. Afterwards, she tried to end her life by jumping from a 5th-floor window in October 2022. She survived the unfortunate ordeal, but she became paraplegic, which is a form of paralysis that results in the partial or full loss of motor function and sensation in the lower half of the body. After this, her life became a constant struggle between continuing to live and wanting control over her suffering. In July 2024, doctors approved her request for euthanasia by the Catalan government agency, stating that Noelia's condition is irreversible and that she is suffering from a severe form of chronic and debilitating pain. However, her father disagreed, which led to a long and difficult legal battle. For 601 days, she remained alive while the courts reviewed her case. In February 2026, Spain's constitutional court ruled in her favor. On March 26, 2026, she died through voluntary euthanasia at a care facility as she had requested. She chose to be alone in her final moments. Noelia was not just dealing with a pain, she was also having inner battles in choosing between personal autonomy and familial expectations, and probably religious expectations. Many cultures, especially religious or collectivist cultures, teach people to keep going no matter what and believe that it is important to stay alive, for life is holy. In Noelia's case, her conflicting feelings were evident when she recounted instances where her father prevented her plans to end her life and told her that she had no heart and that she was not thinking of others, and that same father was also neglecting her by keeping her alive in a hospital while at the same time not visiting or even just calling her. This scenario can't help but let us ask a difficult question about one's autonomy in life. Does a person truly own their life? Or can that right be limited by family, culture, religion, or the state? And if others can decide for you, where does your own voice begin and end? In the end, Noelia Ramos decided that her own suffering had mattered. She believed her pain did not have to come second to other people's happiness. To others, this might be rebellion, but to Noelia, this was her choosing her own path. Noelia Castillo Ramos's journey from deep emotional pain to clear, steady conviction was shaped by her refusal to give in to outside pressure and her firm belief in a dignified end to her life. According to Spanish law on assisted euthanasia 3/2021, a person can ask for medical help to end their life only under strict rules. 1. They must be an adult. 2. They understand their decision clearly. 3. They make the request more than once over time. Also, they must be experiencing serious and ongoing suffering from a severe illness or condition. Doctors are required to explain all options, including treatment and palliative care, before any decision is approved. Most people are afraid of death, and that is normal. But Noelia did not avoid that fear. She faced it. Her first attempt in 2022 was coming from overwhelming pain and emotion from the ordeal that happened between her and 3 boys. However, this final decision was different. She was deliberate and certain of her decision. In February 2026, Spain's Constitutional Court, the nation's top court, rejected the appeal of Noelia's father to stop the process, stating that there was no violation of fundamental rights. This meant that Noelia was legally allowed to proceed with her decision to end her life under the law. Choosing death is not just a personal choice. It affects people around you. Noelia had to explain her decision many times. She had to talk about her pain, defend her decisions, and face disagreement. Her family did not support her. Her father challenged her in court. She also said she felt pressure from religious groups in her care center. According to her, the room was filled with small pictures, crosses, and other religious symbols, which made her feel pushed to change her decision. In court, she spoke clearly about what she wanted. She said, "I want to finish with dignity once and for all." Her case became the first in Spain to go to trial for this kind of decision, and it did not move quickly. As expected, instead of a clear path, she had to wait for rulings from several courts before her right was finally upheld. In the end, she chose to die alone, not because she wanted isolation, but because She felt that no one truly understood her. Sometimes being misunderstood can feel more isolating than being physically alone. But after years of waiting, there were no more delays. On March 26, 2026, as she had announced, her life came to an end. In healthcare, a good death is usually about comfort. Doctors try to reduce pain and help the person feel calm and supported, often with family nearby. But Noelia saw dignity in a different way. For her, dignity meant control. After years of trauma, pain, and long legal delays, she wanted to decide how her story would end. She chose the timing, the setting, and even who would be present. In the end, she chose to be alone, not as rejection, but as a way to keep full control over her final moments. This reflects a deeper idea. When people feel like control has been taken from them, they may try to regain it in the most important parts of their life. In Noelia's case, that control extended to how her life would end. But this brings up a difficult question. Is this true empowerment? Or is it a response to a life where too much control was already taken away? If someone feels they need to carefully plan their death to finally feel peace, what does that say about the life they were living before? Noelia's decision was steady and unwavering. She did not leave room for negotiation, even after years of delay, pressure, and opposition. Because of this, her case pushed people to think more deeply about life, suffering, and the meaning of choice. Her story shifts how we understand three important ideas. First, autonomy is no longer just about saying yes or no. It becomes about having full control over one's own life, even at the end of it. Second, it raises a difficult question about suffering. Should mental and emotional pain be treated the same as physical pain when making decisions like this? Third, it changes how we define dignity. Instead of being something shared and agreed upon, dignity begins to feel more personal, something each individual defines for themselves. And that is where things become complicated. If dignity means something different for every person, then it becomes harder for laws, doctors, and society to set clear and fair limits. It forces us to ask not just what is allowed, but what is right, and who gets to decide. Noelia's case forces society to face a difficult truth. Healthcare systems are built to protect life and prevent self-harm. But in certain situations, those same systems may also allow a person to end their life. This creates a deep conflict that is not easy to resolve. There is also concern about normalization. Research shows that widely reported deaths can influence vulnerable people, especially those who are already suffering. This means euthanasia may not only be seen as a medical option, but also as a possible way out of suffering. Does allowing euthanasia truly give people dignity? Or does it slowly change how society views life, suffering, and death? Could it shift the way people understand what it means to keep going? Another important question is about freedom of choice. Was Noelia's decision fully her own, or was it shaped by trauma, isolation, and years of pain? If systems fail to fully support people and euthanasia becomes available, is it always a true choice? Or can it become a response to needs that were never properly met? Spain has deep cultural roots in Catholic beliefs, where life is seen as valuable from beginning to natural end. This is not just a private belief, it has shaped laws, medical practice, and how people think about suffering and death. Because of this, when the law allows euthanasia, many people still feel it is morally wrong, or even see it as ending a life rather than providing care. This creates a real tension in everyday life. Patients may ask for the right to choose how they die, while doctors may feel a duty to protect life. Hospitals, especially those guided by religious values, may struggle with whether to take part. Families may also be divided, with some supporting the choice and others opposing it. At the center of this conflict are two different ideas of dignity. One says dignity means having control over your own life, including how it ends. The other says dignity comes from the value of life itself, no matter the suffering. These ideas can exist together, but they do not easily agree. Noelia's case brings this conflict into the open. It shows that legal permission does not always lead to moral agreement. It also raises a deeper concern. If laws move too far from cultural and religious values, people may lose trust in those laws. But if laws follow those values too strictly, they may limit personal freedom. There is no simple answer. The real challenge is how a society can respect both personal choice and deeply held beliefs at the same time. Noelia's story does not resolve this conflict, but it makes it impossible to ignore. This matters more than it seems, so let me ask you this. What happens when a law allows something that many people believe is morally wrong? Should personal choice always come first, or are there limits when others are affected? Are religious objections only about belief, or do they also protect vulnerable people from pressure? Can a healthcare system respect both a patient's request to die and a doctor's refusal to take part? If different people define dignity in different ways, who should decide what the law follows? When you first hear this case, it may feel easy to choose a side. But the longer you sit with it, the harder it becomes to stay certain. Was she thinking clearly? Or was her clarity shaped by years of pain and isolation? Did the system truly support her, or did it fail her so deeply that control over her death became the only control she had left? If she was already under the protection of the state, how was she still exposed to harm? And if medicine exists to preserve life, What does it mean when it becomes the very tool that ends it? If cases like this become more common, what changes next? Do the laws evolve, or do we slowly change how we define suffering, dignity, and even what a life is worth? Maybe the hardest question is not about Noelia. Maybe it's about us. Jean-Paul Sartre once said that we are condemned to be free, that we are forced to choose, even when the choices are unbearable. So here's the question we cannot escape. If you are truly free to decide your own life and your own end, then what does it mean to exist at all? And if life can be chosen, can it also lose its meaning the moment we begin to question whether it is worth continuing?